What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kurek, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Spawnhour and Theo Ash. And today is a very special episode of Stay Hot because we're talking about college football and we're not talking about the draft. So that means we're talking about the college football playoffs. The rankings are set. The brackets are set. We're going to go through the first round, predict how we think those games are going to play out. And then, of course, we will predict how we think the championship game will play out. Even though we don't know the matchup yet, we think we can nail it today. But before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing on this beautiful Wednesday evening? A snowy one if you're in Ohio. Matt, did you get any snow today? You're muted.
I got a little bit of snow, nothing too crazy.
I got a little bit.
It didn't really stick. But it's getting dark at 5 p.m. right now, and I'm told those two things are supposed to balance out and actually be a huge positive for winter, and it's actually the best season.
Snow and dark at 5 makes it.
Yeah, we get coats, we get snow, trade off like 7 less hours of daylight or whatever. Go. Bad deal, I'm afraid. Outside of that, I'm okay.
That's good. I agree with you, by the way. Summer goated. Theo, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm trying to figure out how to make my money back from the Hawk Tua rug pull that I lost my savings on, and I thought of a brilliant idea, which is Matt Coin.
A rug pull of our own.
Guys, don't worry. Just throw it at Matt Coin long.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because then, I'd be in the same situation as before. This is going to be all ethical, good faith stuff. Matt Coin, available on the blockchain now.
It's not just a coin, it's a community, is what you're buying into, really.
And whatever happened to NFTs? I think that we could get a couple of those back too.
I think they fell off. Here's the thing. I thought that people were like completely done with them. And every once in a while you'll see somebody on Twitter where it's like, oh, okay, like this dude still got the classic, the monkey NFT, whatever that one was called. Mm-hmm. But I think people realize like they have like no use. It's one of those tech things where it's like the tech bros kind of like get out ahead of themselves. They're not always wrong. I don't want to make it out like that. But there's a lot of times where it's like the tech bros will do something like that. And then everyone will be like, yeah, but like, I don't know if that like is worth anything or like that has like any real use case. And then they'll be like, they're doubting us like they doubted the internet. So it's like the same.
Yeah,
because
as a tech bro, a screenshot of Blaiden, sell it as an
NFT. Yeah, I guess you are kind of a tech bro. Well, you're not like an NFT guy.
No, I'm not. I don't know. I always kind of have this thought with like AI too, where there was this massive rush to introduce AI into everything. And it just wasn't super necessary for a lot of it.
Like that clip product is a great example with the AI, and it would like show the hologram on your hand or whatever. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think
it's kind of like a relatively famous. I don't know what it's called at all. So you're gonna
like a little box.
Yeah, and you like wear it on your shirt. It was just like AI is cool. We want to make something with AI rather than like thinking it out. And it's not to say that AI is never going to have any good use or doesn't right now necessarily.
But that was the criticism with Spotify Wrapped. Is like they clearly said, how can we incorporate AI into Wrapped instead of what do we want to do? I think Matt, you were the one that said that, and it's like so obviously that's what they were trying to do.
I don't really want to listen to an AI podcast that's like, and then you listen to King Cruel in March. And it's like,
no, the worst part about the AI podcast is they made no attempt to like screen that thing at all. It would say anything.
What do you mean?
It would say anything.
Here's the thing. I didn't listen to mine. I heard one other person's and I was like, all right.
It would say anything, Matt.
Oh, like bad words even?
Like anything. Like if it was like reciting lyrics, it would say the lyrics exactly. Like if it was like reading this, like it would say anything.
That's funny.
It's kind of funny, but it's also like
it's
should have been better about.
Well, that's why it came out a little late, is because they were like finagling with that, and it wasn't as good as last year. It was too bad.
Yeah, so I've always applauded Apple, I guess, for like being the one company to not like rush AI into everything. They've added AI into their like recent line of stuff, but it hasn't been like overdone. I haven't heard a lot of people that got the new Mac Minis being like, "Oh, the AI in here is so bad." So
sweet.
I don't know about you, but I'm a huge fan of live events, whether it's a concert, a big game, or even a comedy show. The energy and excitement are unmatched. I still remember the time I went to the Browns game this year, and I got to watch my Browns beat up on the Baltimore Ravens. It was truly an unforgettable experience. That's why I'm always looking forward to making new memories, and Game Time makes it so easy. With Game Time, I'm able to grab tickets for any upcoming event using their new feature, Game Time Picks. It filters out all the extra stuff and only shows you the best deals on amazing seats, so you don't waste time. I found a super deal that was hard to beat, and the best part is you can see seat views before you buy. No surprise fees with all-in pricing, and the lowest price guarantee gives me peace of mind. If I find a cheaper ticket elsewhere, I get 110% back. So if you want the best deal on your next event, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code BLAIDENK, that's BLAIDENK, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download Game Time today. What is it? Game Time. You want to talk about some football?
Let's do it.
All right. College football today, not NFL. We're a little bit out of our wheelhouse, but it's kind of almost pre-draft prep in a way. We're taking a look. Let's start with 12v5. This is the big one, you know. You've got such a low-ranked team coming in. Clemson was the 16th ranked team. They end up being the 12 seed here. I'll just straight up ask, because you all probably know my position on this based on our last episode. Do you think they're beating Texas?
I don't think that they're going to. I mean, they're a feisty team, but it's going to take Klubnik having a really, really nice day. And I just think Texas's defense is a little too talented. That's where I'm coming from. I don't think Clemson, after what we've seen the last two games, is going to be able to run the ball particularly well. They couldn't against South Carolina. I think they averaged like 2 yards a carry against SMU. Now, to be fair, South Carolina, very good defense. SMU, very good run defense. So it's not like they're going up against nobodies, but they're also like not going up against a nobody this game as well. So it's going to come down to Klubnik like really balling out. And I think to like some level, it's like, yeah, if you just say, we're not really supposed to be here, all the pressure's on Texas. Let's go out and just throw the thing around and like air it out as much as possible and say, okay, like maybe if we can get a couple of quick scores, or if we can like really, you know, maybe we make some mistakes, but we make some big plays. Like you told me, you know, it was a 3 touchdown, 2 interception day. I wouldn't be like, that's a terrible thing. I wouldn't be totally out on Clemson. And then hopefully, you know, maybe Texas has the struggles they did against Georgia. Yeah, I can see a path here for them, but I think UT's a lot more reliable of a pick here. I'm going with them right now.
I think that you're dead on about the run game. That's where my like first concern comes in. Like Clemson versus Pittsburgh in week 10, Maffa had 17 attempts for 17 yards. And then versus Carolina, he was at 20 for 66. And then versus SMU, 13 for 28. I mean, they allowed that big lead to disappear because they couldn't run the ball and protect it and run out the clock. And it almost got them beat by SMU, but they made that field goal at the end. So, yeah, it'll be a lot on Klubnik's shoulders. It seemed like in the ACC championship game, they were really honed in on Wesco, that deep threat wide receiver that they have. And number one on SMU just could not really handle his speed. So either he went over the top or he would pretend to and then come back down and he'd be wide open. So Texas has the bodies on defense to, you know, match up with a guy like that. And if he's the one guy that they can kind of hone in on and take away, where else can they go, I guess would be my question. They got that tight end who's kind of going off, and Maffa's a big name, but the results just haven't been there recently. So I think Texas's defense is going to be pretty dominant. I don't really hold Cade Klubnik in the like craziest high regard. He's a good RPO guy, it seems like, but in terms of like just dropping back and putting as much on Texas's heads that he'll probably need to, I don't think he'll
being an RPO quarterback with a bad run game.
Yeah.
Not gonna bode you pretty well. I think this is gonna be pretty chalk. 5v12 and really.
I mean, I think there's a path to Texas losing here. Like, let's not get it twisted. Their quarterback issue against Georgia, like Ewers played terribly, and if Ewers plays like that, it's one of those situations where, almost what I said before Ohio State, Michigan, although I don't think it's quite to this level, where if you get that type of quarterback play, you better be able to like really run the ball super effectively, or you can lose any game. Not that I'd pick them to lose, but you could lose any game. And I think you're going into this game, you're not starting Arch Manning, most likely. Like, they're just not going to do that. But he's got his helmet on from play one. Like, he's ready to go, because there's just not many teams who are good enough to win a national title who have a backup good enough where it's like he might be an upgrade over the starter. Like, this is a weird position for a team to be in. So I don't know. I think it's something to watch, just with the accuracy for Ewers, because what's scary about that is, like, if you can't complete anything down the field, or you can't trust Ewers down the field because he had a couple of really bad interceptions, right? All of a sudden, it just becomes so easy for defenses to get downhill on you. And when you're going up against a team like Clemson, who I don't think has a perfect defense, right? I mean, we saw SMU make a comeback because they wanted to kind of go prevent, and then they wanted to run the ball on offense, and of course they couldn't because they were trying to chew out the clock. And it's like, of course SMU comes back. But they do have athletes, and if you allow them to get downhill and play physical, like, everything becomes incredibly tough. That's what happened against Georgia, and it can definitely happen against Clemson too if you're not careful.
Yeah, Ewers isn't the X factor. He is the A factor. I feel like he's the storyline. He has to rebound, or Sark has to protect him. I think to some extent in that SEC championship game, he was playing a little bit differently than he usually does, where they were trying to attack more downfield, and the yak wasn't as big a part of it early as much as he was like trying to take his shots to the end zone. And I feel like maybe Sark can play his game a little bit more against a weaker team. And I think, but yeah, Ewers is bad, man. It was really, really gross to watch that Georgia game. I was watching it thinking, like, how we talk about how the ball just looks when it leaves Josh Allen's hands or Michael Vick's hands. It looks like they just almost drop it and it would go forward. Like, they get that little boost. With Ewers, it's the opposite. Like, you just look at the raw arm strength that he has on the broadcast, and the ball is just coming out like extra slow with extra height on it. And it's just
Kirk Cousins lollipop.
That lolly, it might be worse than Kirk Cousins. I just feel like he doesn't have the arm talent, and then on top of that, he doesn't have the decision making. So it's a pretty bad combination. But
it's one of those things, right, where you don't think the arm strength compounds that problem, but it does, right? It makes it tougher to fit it into tight windows. And when you're playing really good athletes, like, again, a Georgia has or a Clemson has, those windows can be really tight. So we'll see with him, man. I think Arch is really good too. I've seen a lot of Texas fans. They seem to be very much in the camp that it's Ewers going forward, which is interesting, because I think, if they didn't trust him, like, there's no like sort of, well, they're going to trust him no matter what. You know what I mean? Like, I could totally see a world where a fan base in a similar situation who just like thought the backup was the way to go, or like really was pissed with the starter, could be fine putting in the younger backup who they feel has a higher ceiling. But Texas fans seem convinced that Ewers can play better than he did. So
I don't trust.
I'll be interested to see how it. Yeah, fair enough.
I think. Plus, I guess we only saw Arch for the one game, but he was very
Ewers
good
has
in that
always
game,
been. He's gotten a decent number of attempts this year. I just think, and I understand it. You don't want to put an Arch without the experience in an instant big time moment. Like that could go south. I've always liked Ewers a decent amount, but he's been so inconsistent. I haven't really been able to back him as much as I want.
Even his like almost strip sack that he had against Clemson, he's just like holding the ball forever and looking downfield. It's like I just didn't see anything in that game that made me think, hey, this guy's the guy. But I like Texas's weapons a lot. All of their receivers are cool. Their offensive linemen are super great. They got a center who can snap it through the quarterback's legs apparently into the running back, which was sick. So I think if it becomes like an RPO off, which I do believe it's going to be, Texas is going to have the edge. I don't really think either of the ACC teams are going to hold up super well after what I saw in that championship game. That's my take. I think it's going to be a big Texas win.
I think that's pretty fair.
Is it this or no? It's this.
Yeah, it's it.
Yeah.
I've every, I guess, prediction that I've seen, or every bracket that I've seen, has Texas winning in this game, and then they also have Texas winning against Arizona State. Theo.
Well, that's ridiculous.
It's hilarious that Arizona State has a bye.
It happened so fast, and I think that's kind of interesting about these college football playoffs, or something that I didn't quite anticipate was like,
yeah,
in the Big 12, just a couple weeks ago, you never would have imagined that Arizona State could make the playoffs and then much less get a bye, especially my NFL brain, which is used to only the one seed being able to get it.
Yeah.
You can be kind of like you don't have to be that great of a team to get a bye. Like that's kind of crazy.
You just have to win the Big 12.
or what is Boise State in the Mountain
The Mountain
West?
West. The Mountain West is the 3 seed because they're the Mountain West champion. Look, yeah. I guess I don't mind the auto bids, although honestly, like looking at them, I'm like, do we need them? Because Boise State got themselves in anyway with a loss. If you're Group of 5 and you can do that, it's like, man, do we need to ensure that somebody gets in, or should like it just be in your hands? If you know what I mean.
I think
regardless,
one of the 2 seed, maybe the 2 seed, but definitely the 1 seed should get a bye.
I get it. I think it's gonna amp up the chaos, maybe though. Like
it amps up the chaos, but like in the sense that we're just like moving worse teams ahead of better ones. I don't like that the division winners or the conference winners, get the buys. And honestly, I don't like any of the auto bids outside of maybe Group of 5. I can understand being like, if we're going to have this many teams, give the Group of 5 a chance no matter what. But like, dude, if you're a Big 12 team or an ACC team, you can't be ranked in the top 12 after you win the conference automatically. Like, dude. Although I guess that's maybe just an anti-Clemson take, but I guess I don't really care. Like, there's so many teams in at this point. It's like you got to do your own thing. But Arizona State getting a bye kills me.
I find it very funny that you get like if you want to get like a really cool 12 seed upset, like in March Madness, like a 16 beat to 1 or 15 beat to 2, you have to get through. You have to have the 12 seed win 2 games in a row just to get that kind of a matchup, which I think is kind of lame.
I think it's going to improve parity a lot, right? Like Boise State and Arizona State getting the benefit of a bye. I mean, the odds that they can win the Big 12 or the Mountain West with 1 loss or whatever are so much higher than they get one of the top 4 rankings in the country overall. Like that'll happen way more seasons. So you get kind of these smaller programs without a lot of historical success whose path to the championship is so much easier than like Ohio State's this year or Texas's or, Penn State's. Well, Oregon has a bye too.
That's why it's not going to last, I'm afraid.
So like you have it's ASU's best ever shot to win a title like in year 1 of this, or it's Boise State's best ever shot to win a title. So I kind of like it from that sense. Like if you're going to be college football and your MO is like upsets and craziness and you want more parity, like, I don't know. I kind of see it, but from a logical perspective of like, hey, the best teams should get the buys, I would say that that's not what happened. But
yeah,
is that the worst thing? But anyway,
maybe.
I don't know.
It's not going to be the format for much longer, so we don't really need to worry about it. That's not me being like
I know.
like woke dickhead where I'm like, this sucks, I hate this.
Fake
like it's
woke.
probably going to get changed by like 2026. Like we might get this like 2 more years and be done, you know?
Right.
So we'll see.
Yeah, it's definitely still in the testing phase, and once Texas loses round 1 and ASU stays
Yeah, once
in,
the
they'll
SEC,
say-
like all of that stuff going on, like dude, it's not looking good.
no,
They're not just sitting on their hands and being like, well, there's nothing we can do. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on to
Yeah,
the
let's-
next
let's
game?
do another
Working
game.
down our
Ohio
bracket.
State.
Tennessee, Ohio State. This is just a very bizarre circumstance that Ohio State and Ryan Day finds themselves in. They lose, I think you could say, the worst loss in the game in the last 50 years. That's really no exaggeration or hyperbole, and genuinely like maybe the worst loss in my lifetime.
of any.
And then they have another home game after that. It's never even been possible for that to happen before. And with Ryan Day going out there with 4 straight Michigan losses and 3 straight years of no national title and 3 straight years of no Big Ten championship game,
It's
you
going
know,
to be
Herb
more.
Street made this point, like, and I kind of agree, but from a different perspective that, like, yeah, dude, if Ohio State gets out to a slow start, they're not going to be like happy about it at all. It's going to be nasty. Now, I think that Ohio State fans are rightfully mad. The team has been a disappointment recently for a long time. The standard at Ohio State is high, right? So I'm a little nervous about how OSU comes out and plays in this game. A lot of people want to compare it to 2022 against Georgia, and I understand why. They went into that game after losing to Michigan. They had nothing to lose, and they played like it. They let Stroud do his thing, seemingly for the first time all season, and they came really close to beating a really good Georgia team and really close to winning a national title because they probably would have beaten TCU. That being said, I don't think the pressure is like entirely off of Ohio State like it was before. In fact, I feel like this is Ryan Day's last stand almost. If they lose to Tennessee, like he's in really big trouble.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a completely different circumstance now than what it was against Georgia. Also, Georgia was like a super powerhouse, we don't know what we can do team. Tennessee, like, you're the 7-point favorite, which means that they're really good and you're supposed to win, which is not a good scenario to be in.
Oh, the pressure Ryan Day is under, it's like a bomb this year. I mean, it's almost to the point where it's hard to imagine them playing well throughout this playoffs because it's so high and the fans hate them all so much.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if they lose, it'll be like January 6th out there. Like they'll storm the field in a bad way. It'll be the first time ever. I feel like it's going to look more like a
field and a loss.
It's going to look more like Gladiator 2 crowd than a typical football game where like the crowd doesn't even want the home team to win. They just want to see like everybody involved die. I feel like the toxicity in Ohio right now is crazy.
Ryan Day
is crazy. I think the crowd is going to have mob mentality towards their head coach. I think it's reached a fever pitch, and I think it's going to be very difficult for the team to perform in that type of environment with that little support behind them. And then they don't have CJ Stroud. They have Will Howard. So it's not like they can say like, pull the pin and throw the grenade in, like we're living and dying by his arm. So they probably won't be happy with the play calling or the aggressiveness or any of it. But that being said, they certainly can game plan better than they did against Michigan. The wide receivers can make more plays. Will Howard can play better. I mean, they're favorites, and their defense is legitimately sick and did nothing wrong against Michigan, the Darling Boys on that side of the ball, I guess.
Pretty much.
So, like, I like that this is the lowest point total in of all the matchups in terms of over under. It does feel like all the offense's problems won't magically go away, but you can't discount how good the defense is. And Tennessee's been pretty inconsistent. We haven't even talked about them, but I think they can win a slugfest like they did against Penn State, or they try to do in most games. It's possible for them to do it, but in this case, momentum may be real for them, and it's not even momentum. It's just that they are a little bit fraudulent, and they're under a lot of pressure.
Do they get out of their own head and swallow their pride that they're not this like Big Ten physical ground and pound 2014 Wisconsin type of football team? Like, you got Jeremiah Smith, use him, man. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, they have to get into a passing rhythm and then start running it instead of like the other way around. Although, isn't it supposed to snow?
I honestly haven't checked the weather of the game. I think it's very interesting. I mean, obviously the number one factor is what exactly is Ohio State going to even play like? It feels like it's almost impossible to know. Realistically, if they want to go on a run and like seriously prove people wrong, they've got to trust Will Howard, for better or for worse. Their run game is not good because their offensive line is so banged up right now and their depth is terrible. That's probably not going to change. It could be better than it was in the Michigan game, just off of maybe running outside a little bit more, which they were more successful at, or just like not going up against such a strong defensive tackle duo. I mean, not to say that Tennessee doesn't have a very good defensive line, because they do. But Michigan is obviously even another level on the interior than basically anybody else in the country. But it's never going to be a strength that they can lean on. It's never going to be their strong suit. They're going to have to air it out and live with whatever result Howard gives you. If you get out there and you're, again, just trying to avoid Howard mistakes, you maybe can get past Tennessee, and that's it. The ceiling on what you're going to be able to do is incredibly low. That being said, I do think, for as much as Ohio State needs to trust Howard, and as much as I think Howard really may, make mistakes, because we saw it against the Michigan game. I'm worried about Tennessee's pass rush. James Pierce Jr. on a Donovan Jackson who's not really supposed to be a tackle, when Ohio State sometimes really liked to just leave him out there on an island alone. Like, that could get ugly really quickly. You can see how that goes wrong. But I do think that on the other end, Ohio State can generate some bad plays from Tennessee. OSU has a fantastic secondary, and they've been using that to blitz more and more often. That's the lesson they learned during this season. You get a young quarterback like Nico, who I think is good, but is green, and going to the shoe in a super cold weather game, like, that's a really, really tough environment. And you've got a really great defense that's heating you up, and you've got a really great secondary outside of, a couple of bad Denzel Burke moments on the other end, waiting for you to make a mistake, waiting for you to make the wrong read. Like, that could get ugly quickly for them as well. So I foresee this as a little bit more of a slugfest than anything else. And I think it's honestly going to come down to whichever quarterback can make less mistakes, or whoever can make more big-time plays. But at the same time, maybe Ohio State just says, we want to run the ball and we want to prove we're strong again. And if that's the case, give me Tennessee. Like, you just can't do that. It's not going to be acceptable.
I think that's what's going to happen. Know. I think that's what's going to happen. My prediction for Ohio State in general, I think they beat Tennessee, and then I think they lose to Oregon. I'm going to say they lose to Tennessee. I'm rocking with Nico. He's been a little bit better in the second half of the season than the first, although he's still very inconsistent. But I just think, like you say, Matt, I think it's going to be a slugfest. I think it's going to be close. I don't think Ohio State is ever going to pull away, I'll say. And I think the fans are going to get angry, and there's going to be...
Yeah, Ohio State will never pull
snowball.
away.
It's going to just snowball, and then Tennessee's going to win.
Oh, I promise you this. Even if Ohio State starts off great, which they've been questionable at, even if they start off great, they'll immediately get conservative at the worst possible time and let Tennessee back into the game. At least from what every other big game they've played, that's the lesson that I've learned. Now, they might not end up losing because of that. Sometimes they don't, but oftentimes they do. So I think it's going to be close.
Tennessee's got a running back with 4,500 rushing yards this year and 22 touchdowns. And Nico, he's just the type of quarterback that he's got
Dylan
a big
Sampson,
arm and he's got crazy athleticism. He might have those Anthony Richardson stat lines this year. That's how I'm picturing it. But like, he just needs a couple big plays. Let him air it out.
Hey, how many bad football players are there named Nico? You know,
not many.
I can think of one good one.
Yeah, me too.
That's all I know.
1 for 1. So I'm also taking Ohio State. I'm taking Ohio State. But I agree with Matt. It'll probably lose to Oregon, but
it's not a good matchup for them, and they're just not as good of a team as they were when they played them the first time.
I can see it.
But Theo, I respect you picking Tennessee. I think that's noble of you to pick the underdog.
Yeah, and they're real underdog. They're 7.5-point underdogs, but I just don't like Ohio State.
Some underdogs going to win, and I think to 7.5 points, I really like. I mean, not to give betting advice, I kind of like Tennessee on that line, just because I think Ohio State's going to let them back in the game. They're probably going to say, you can see it right now. They're up like 11 with 14 minutes to go. They run 3 straight times up the middle, and they punt, and you're like, yep, cool.
We'll see.
If you're like me, always looking for an edge in sports betting, then you know how important it is to have the right strategy. So when I heard that Masterclass had a class on beating the odds, taught by the pros who've made millions, I had to check it out. It's exactly what I needed to level up my game. With Masterclass, you can learn from the best to become your best. The platform has over 200 classes from some of the world's most successful professionals, and for just $10 a month, you get access to every class from high-stakes sports betting to mastering data-driven strategies. Masterclass is available on your phone, your computer, or even on your TV. And for those looking to sharpen their betting skills, these classes are a game changer. Forget relying on lucky jerseys. Learn how the pros manage risk, evaluate data, and make tactical decisions. 88% of members say Masterclass has positively impacted their lives, and I think you guys will be no different. I'm confident that taking this class will give you the confidence and insights you need to make better decisions and sharpen your skills. Masterclass right now is offering up to 50% off. Head over to masterclass.com/stayhot to take advantage of this deal. Again, that is masterclass.com/stayhot. Don't miss out on this chance to level up your skills. And remember, always bet responsibly. Sports betting involves risk, and you are responsible for complying with all local laws. Hey everyone, with the holidays creeping up faster than your aunt's fruitcake recipe, I've got something way better to share with you. If you want to look sharp for all those festive gatherings and maybe finally win that Best Groomed Family Dinner Award, check out the latest masterpiece from Manscaped, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver. Trust me, it's like Rudolph for your face, guiding you to a smooth, irritation-free shave. Head over to manscaped.com and join over 11 million people worldwide who trust Manscaped by using the code STAYHOT for 20% off plus free shipping. But let's dive into the goods. The Chairman Pro comes with 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads, one for that super smooth baby's bottom feel and the other for trimming your stubble just right. No more razor burn or irritation, so you can show up to that holiday party looking sharp. Not like you had a run-in with the Christmas tree, but here's the real magic. Flex Adjust technology. The pivoting head adjusts to the curves of your face, giving you a smooth, precise shave, even on those tricky spots like your jawline. Plus, the Chairman Pro is waterproof, so you can shave in the shower without worrying about cleanup. Just rinse it off and you're good to go. And with up to 75 minutes of runtime on a single charge, you've got plenty of juice to go from that rugged holiday beard to smooth as a snow angel. So, once again, get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that's as smooth as you deserve. Use the code STAYHOT for 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. Again, that is 20% off plus free shipping with the code STAYHOT at manscaped.com.
But what's the next game?
The next game would be SMU and Penn State. Drew Allar, man.
I like Drew.
Is it
Aller? It's
Is
Aller.
it Aller?
Yeah, not Allar.
Oh.
Aller to me has the most juice of any quarterback that I've seen declare for the draft or probably be in the draft. He's got a crazy arm. I kind of like his footwork. Like he's got some real picturesque reps where he is like going through his reads or like climbing the pocket while going through his reads, and his feet are tied to all the concepts, and then he's got the huge arm. Like there are a couple throwing reps he has every game where I'm like, holy cow. And then on top of that, he can really run with vision and run downhill, and they can run all kinds of trick plays with him where he's like a wide receiver or, running the option and they put Tyler Warren in there at quarterback, and Tyler Warren was a high school quarterback. So he can like read all these things out and throw it a little bit, even though he's lefty. So they kind of have this wonky offense with some like players that I like. And I do like Penn State just kind of a lot. The way they play, their aesthetic, the players that they have, Abdul Carter and Warren and Aller, they seem like the most NFL built in terms of their talent, and some of the guys that they have. They're like, I don't know, they're like an AFC North team dropped into college football, it feels like, where they're just kind of cool and playing football.
AFC
in
North
an
team would it be?
Probably like the Steelers, I don't know. But they just feel like, an old school, just tough Big Ten team with like a fullback as their best player. So I like what they bring to the table.
Man. I like Aller a lot. He had one throw against Oregon where
he's getting dragged down.
He's setting his feet while he's like wrapped up in the pocket. I'm like, dude, okay. Like, how many guys in the NFL are doing that? Like,
yeah, seriously.
5?
I know only one in the NFC North is. No, actually, probably.
Is his name Caleb Williams?
No.
Yeah, I think I favor Penn State in this game. I think they're a more physical team than SMU. Although SMU's run defense, like I said, and their defensive line is going to put up a fight. I don't think they're necessarily going to be a pushover in that aspect, or you wouldn't expect them to be at least. I agree with your Aller take a lot. I think he's clearly got some tools. One thing that I feel like has really hurt him is that Penn State's receivers have been bad the entire time that he's been there, like really bad. I went and saw him play live last year against OSU, and he had a very bad game. And
definitely.
Penn State had a really terrible offensive game where I think they picked up 1 third down the entire day. But it is always really difficult if nobody's getting open. Like what specifically you're supposed to do, it's just tough, man. And it might look on TV like, okay, well, this guy's just inaccurate because he's, trying to put these like outbreakers way far out so it's not an interception, or he's just holding on to the ball too long. But I think some of his struggles can definitely be tied to that. Penn State's a pretty fantastic running team. I mean, with Allen and Singleton both going over 100 yards against Oregon, you saw that a lot. I like some of the stuff that they do with Warren. I think he's obviously a beast. So you've got some weapons there. I think that SMU had a good season. I do. I think their quarterback's name is slipping me.
Jennings.
I thought Jennings had a really nice performance down the stretch there against Clemson to get them back in that game. But I just wonder if SMU matches up with this defense.
I don't think SMU really matches up at all. Like I said, I think both ACC teams in here are going to face a kind of a rude awakening. I think they're a pretty weak conference. I don't think the title game was necessarily the highest caliber football on either side. And I just think against a real blue blood, both of them could get boat raced. That's my concern. SMU, I like their receivers, and their running back. Those guys made a bunch of plays versus Clemson, and that seemed like a pretty legit group. I mean, the game-winning touchdown that Daniels caught was like a great route, a great catch, and he had a couple of those in that game. Number one, their running back, Johnson, I think his name is. Am I right on that? Or Smith, not the other really common name. knew it was one of those two. But he like has a wicked spin move, and I like the way he was running. So my goal would be to try to keep it out of Jennings's hands as much as possible, because he threw that pick against Clemson that was like horrible. And I think in general, he doesn't really seem like, I don't know, the most consistent guy from what I can tell. But if you can just quickly distribute it out to these playmakers and the running backs, like maybe you can scheme them up kind of like Oregon did with Gabriel. So maybe they could do that. Avoid the big turnover that they had versus Clemson. On the defensive side, I think their line looks pretty great. But
Right.
the line,
It is.
but the linebackers behind the line, and then some of the secondary players, like I just don't think they have. They have a lot of
it's
talent.
kind of interesting. I mean, it's sort of strength on strength, weakness on weakness there, right? Their run defense and their defensive line is really good. That's Penn State's strength, is trying to run the ball. But then their secondary and their cornerbacks are really rough. But does Penn State have the guys to expose that? I think it's interesting. But at the same time, like, it's going to be a freezing cold game. You're going to Penn State. They want to run, like, it's going to be an incredibly difficult environment for SMU, and that matters a lot. So I'm going with Penn State here.
Yeah, I think Penn State, I think they're going to have the biggest margin of victory of the first round against SMU.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then everybody's going to say, well, Bama would have given them a better fight. Kind of like if Florida State would have made it last year, I think.
Hey, Florida State should have made it last year. That we all
I know. But I think if they were to have made it, it would have been a bad game. And that's what the committee was afraid of.
Yeah.
To their credit, I mean, I don't know how you could have let Alabama in. Like, I see all these tweets complaining about it or making it a debate. I'm like, didn't they lose to like Vanderbilt and like to Oklahoma, and they weren't in their championship game, and they had 3 losses, right? So I'm like, I don't know why anybody would, like, what case did they have? I guess I don't know, but yeah, I do think they're probably a better team than SMU, but without a better case, because they lost like several games that were horrible for them. So it seems like kind of a
I don't have
disqualifier.
any problem with SMU making it. I mean, to some extent, you just can't start the precedent of we're going to drop teams significantly because of an extra conference championship game. I mean, that if you do that, what a team's going to say? Are they going to like sit out games? Are they going to not want to go to the conference championship? Like, you can't have that by any means. So I have no problem with that. And I agree. Alabama, I think if they had lost to some of these better teams that they played, honestly, and it had been close, it'd be like, okay, there's the case. We have 3 losses with a great strength of schedule. You have 2 losses with a terrible strength of schedule. We should get in over you. That makes complete sense to me. The problem is that you lost to like Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. You got blown out by Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks left in the season.
Yeah,
Which I don't know if that necessarily should matter, but it certainly does the committee. And it's like, okay, well,
That was an unforgivable loss. That was
and this is
inexcusable.
yeah, and that's the problem. It's like, I almost think that South Carolina has a better argument because they played an insane schedule, but they actually lost to some of these big time teams they played. They went like 3-3 in the ranked games that they played or something like that, and they had a top 10 strength of schedule. I could see the case for like them over an SMU if SMU had lost 2 games in the regular season, but then they lost to Alabama, so you got to do the head-to-head. So it gets all confusing. I'm fine with SMU being in here. Again,
South
if you
Carolina
didn't want to
fan
miss, don't lose to Oklahoma by 21 late in the season.
Yeah. South Carolina
Seriously.
fan thinks that South Carolina had a reasonable shot to make the playoffs.
They did. Do you disagree?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, like,
he's saying you're biased,
so am
Matt,
I.
and
Yeah,
A little
you're
bit.
saying I'm not wrong, but I'm being biased anyway.
I'm not saying that you are wrong, but I'm not saying that you're right. But you are being biased because you picked, like, you could have picked another team, but you picked South Carolina.
I think South Carolina is a great example of what I'm talking about, though. They've got the strong strength of schedule. They've got the 3 losses. They're right there. I guess I could do Ole Miss as well.
Yeah. Pick
or
another
maybe
SEC.
Miami. But
Well,
could've-
we're talking strength of schedule versus win-loss, though.
fair. I don't know enough. I think you're right because South Carolina's ranked 15th and Alabama's ranked 11th.
And look, my point isn't even that South Carolina meant to be in over
yeah,
SMU,
yeah.
but I do think the strength of schedule stuff is interesting.
Yeah.
But-
it is.
Yeah, don't lose. There shouldn't be a precedent of losing your conference championship and getting booted. But there also shouldn't be a precedent of like you lose a bunch of games that you shouldn't and you get in. Like, more importantly, I feel like that on its face is kind of silly.
Right.
Although I do think that the conference championship stuff, like, isn't every game you go into one that you could lose and get knocked out?
Right,
Like, how is the
right.
college? Like, why would you can't sit out your week, whatever, however many weeks there are in college football. You can't sit out your week 13 game because you got a good case now and might lose. Like, how is the conference championship any different? Like, when you get booted for choosing not to show up, like, that's quitting, isn't it? Like, you should.
Yeah, no, here's the thing. I totally agree. And it's like, okay, well, SMU had to play an extra game, right? And again, I think they should have gotten in. But also, even with that extra game, like, would you rather play their schedules or like South Carolina's or like Alabama's or like Georgia's? Like, you'd rather play their schedule. It was still weaker. Or like, here's a better example. Like, Penn State is ranked above Ohio State right now, largely because they lost in the conference championship game, which I think is right. I think Ohio State has no right to complain. But Ohio, like, at the same time, like, what if they had just played Oregon in the regular season? What if they had just gotten a different draw then? Like, they easily could have played that team there, and it would have been entirely different. Like,
right. Is Indiana better off because they didn't play Oregon?
Right. It's the conference, like, championship stuff is so tough because, like, sometimes like a team isn't in the conference championship game because they had to play that big time game in the regular season automatically, and the other team didn't. So it's just all like super confusing with how they're doing everything now.
I think college just has a whining problem with their coaches.
Oh, dude.
And
win your games.
And I just think it's ridiculous that there is serious risk of, oh, we learned something about SMU, and now their playoff standing has changed. So let's not give them the chance to learn anything, is like a serious concern that people have. Like, oh, they'll just sit out. They'll duck a big game so they get in automatically. Like, what? You have to play that. If you get there and you get crushed and you get knocked out of the playoffs, that is such a skill issue, not a problem with the format, in my opinion. I mean, I guess
your games.
Just win the games on your schedule. But then I guess it comes down to like Indiana. They didn't.
It's so bad right now, dude. Because like I think a lot of the complaints are fair, and I think there's so many teams in right now.
But
it's like I can agree with your point, and I think you shouldn't be making it. But maybe that doesn't make any sense either. I don't know, dude.
It makes my brain hurt.
And you shouldn't be making it. This matchup between Indiana and Notre Dame honestly might be the most interesting of any of the first round playoff games, and that is why we have selected it to be Stay Hot's Masterclass Game of the Week. Stay Hot is brought to you by Masterclass, so make sure that when you sign up at masterclass.com, you use the code STAYHOT to get up to 50% off. But taking a look at this game, you've got Indiana on one hand, who lost their only big game of the season to Ohio State, and then you have Notre Dame, who many would argue has not played any big games to this point.
Yeah, they played A&M early in the year.
They did play A&M early in the year.
Both of these teams, it's really, really interesting. I mean, Indiana's got, I think, statistically the best rushing defense in college football, albeit against a weaker schedule. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame's got, I think, statistically maybe the best or one of the best rushing offenses in college football, albeit against a weak schedule. This is going to be, I mean, first off, it's Indiana versus Notre Dame at
State
Notre
championship.
Dame. Yeah, I mean that's a crazy rivalry to have for the playoffs. But not only that, it's going to be a brutal like strength on strength slugfest. I don't think that either of these teams, to me, on paper in that battle, clearly run away as like, okay, well, I'm confident that this team's going to be able to like run hard, or I'm confident Notre Dame isn't going to be able to run. So I think that's probably the number one thing you're watching is how does that war play out. But at the same time, you also got to look at the rest of the offense. I think Indiana's probably a little bit better throwing the ball than Notre Dame is. I trust Rourke more than I trust Leonard. And I think if you're Indiana, your path to victory here is if we can stop Notre Dame from running and keep them relatively honest, then Leonard has to throw. And while Leonard has done a pretty good job not like making too many big mistakes when Notre Dame has called on him, the more they need to ask of him, I think the less true that becomes. At the same time, I'm interested to see how Indiana deals with some really great athletes and a really great defense that Notre Dame has. You know, they've been throwing the ball well. I think, again, Rourke is a really good player. He's been in college football for a long time. That experience is huge going into this game. But how is he able to keep them on pace, or do they get sort of knocked down over and over? Can they not stop themselves from getting a negative play and then sort of getting off kilter?
Yeah, that's what happened in the Ohio State game.
Yeah.
Watching that game back and prep for this, it was closer for a longer amount of time than I remembered. Like, it was Ohio State did they have any points on the board in the first quarter? It was like 7-7 or something, like midway through the second.
I don't remember. It must have, because Ohio State like drove down. They had that 3rd and 35, 4th and 10, pick it up, 1st and goal, run 4 times, don't get it. I don't know if it was 7-7 at that point or it was 7-0.
Yeah, it was. They struck first, and it kind of was close for a while, and then there was a blocked punt, and then there was a fumble that they had, and they kept taking just horrible sacks. So, you know, it was more a couple huge plays. They just couldn't keep their handle on things, really. It's not like it was a wire-to-wire Ohio State win as much as it was a hold on for a while and then just brutally bad mistakes by Indiana. So I guess the question is, can they avoid those mistakes this time? Can they just play their game for 4 quarters? I'm guessing probably not. is where I'm at, but we'll see, because they did hang with Ohio State for like a bit.
That's the thing, is like I really felt like coming out of that game, I was like, Indiana played pretty well for the most part, but like you said, Theo, there's like a handful of plays that just absolutely derailed the game for them. Yeah. And I do wonder, like, I kind of feel like they will be better this time around, just because it's like that was their first big game in, like, that's the biggest game they've played in how long?
Yeah.
Right? It like as experienced as their quarterback is, that's the biggest game he's played his entire career. So I think, you know, coming into this game, it's like, okay, we know what it's like now. We know what that environment's like. You know, we're playing at another massive, important stadium. Let's lock in this time, please. I could see them having their bearings about them more. Maybe it was just like first time being in that kind of a game in so long that it just wasn't clicking. This time maybe it could work out a little bit better. But again, maybe you also say, well, Notre Dame plays in, you know, big games all the time. Typically, you know, they usually play in a big game at the end of every single season. So like, and they're used to playing in this environment, and they're at home. Like, there's a lot that
I think the path for Indiana is very clear. Like, they really have a shot. I do question whether or not they got that unlucky against Ohio State. I mean, they made some big plays. Ohio State, I think, had multiple turnovers in the red zone in the first half. And was still leading after that. Certainly the muffed punt, or the muffed punt catch, I should say, from the punter was like just like a dumb unforced error. I can chalk that one up to luck. But like the punt return they gave up, that's just giving up a punt return. Mm-hmm. That's just bad special teams, you know? And then the second half, when they came out and they couldn't move the ball at all, I mean, they couldn't move the ball at all. Although Ohio State's defense, again, one of, if not the best in the country. Like, it's really tough to go against. Yeah,
and then there's the question of like, well, just how legit is Notre Dame? Because they did get off to kind of, or Riley Leonard specifically got off to a really poor start to the season, and he threw picks versus Northern Illinois, and they lost in one of the biggest like upsets in college football history. Yeah. And then since that moment, they haven't really been put with the diamond tester hasn't really been put on them since that point. I mean, they played some decent teams like Louisville, I think it was ranked or is ranked, and they won that game, and they've been pretty dominant recently. So I'm liking to think, I'd like to think that was just like kind of an early season jitter things, and now they're pretty dominant. I mean, I like Julian Love. I like Watts, their safety. Is Benjamin Morrison playing too? Like, I know they've got some crazy star power, and I just think that I think that they're going to out-talent.
They definitely have a lot of good players. I mean, maybe that game is like Ohio State's Virginia Tech.
I think they're clearly a better
Morrison
team
is out for the season. Yeah, I'm thinking of him, but I knew he got hurt. So sorry.
I really do like Love and Price, their running back duo, though. Like, I don't think there's anything phony about their run game. Sure, they've played a weak schedule, but so is Indiana. And kind of like Indiana, for the most part, they've done more than just beat bad teams. They've blown them out. So you can ask yourself, okay, well, what more are you supposed to do? And I think that's what I would ask of both of them, I guess. I think I'm going to slightly favor... I don't know. Here's the thing. I like Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame is kind of slept on, but like I really do see the path for Indiana to win this one. If Notre Dame like won this game and then went and like, I don't know, like beat Georgia, it wouldn't shock me. I think that's totally a possibility. Like they really are a super physical, really good team. But I think I got to pick one upset, so I'll go Indiana. Why not?
Hey, there we go, Matt. Hop on. Welcome to the club. The Indiana bandwagon.
I'm going to pick Notre Dame. I'm a little worried about how close these games are going to be, honestly. I know you feel like you got to pick an upset, and I did with Tennessee, but
yeah,
I also am like, I don't know. I worry when college teams have clear talent advantages that also I think get a little bit amplified between conference championships and games because the coaching staffs also get a lot of time to like plan. And I just wonder if you're trying to overcome a talent advantage, but there's just all these days.
I don't feel great about it, dude. Like, maybe Tennessee is the one to pick because, like, I mean, it's going to be at Notre Dame, and yeah, they're going to have weeks to prepare, and they're they're a really physical team.
Yeah,
they've got a great second. Like,
it's tough for me to see clear upset paths for anybody but maybe Tennessee.
But
like,
I see the path
Notre Dame,
for Indiana. It's that the run defense holds up.
Illinois at home. Game. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois at home.
They did. They did.
All right, I'm sticking with Indiana.
Let's go.
They did. Maybe Riley Leonard ain't that guy, and he just runs into this defense and throws a bunch of picks.
But he has been better than he was that game.
They miss some field goals. They fumble it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It seems like Indiana is probably just as prone to special teams mistakes or fumbles or interceptions or whatever.
That's true. That doesn't make me feel good. Ohio State doesn't make me feel great. Although, no. Because I looked this up because I was like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick whoever has the better turnover margin because that'll be the team that genius play. And I think Notre Dame is 3rd in the country plus 16. Indiana is 4th in the country plus 15. Cool.
Damn.
It's a lot. It should be a great game. I'm hoping it is. That brings us to our title picks, though.
Yes.
Who do you guys have?
I'm resisting the urge to say ASU, but I'll say ASU.
There you go.
Works up. I really do like ASU's team build. I think that with the bye, they are pretty dangerous to make a run at things. I think they're more dangerous than Boise State is even because like Scatabo and Genty, I mean, they're both built that way, and they're both that guy who are going to cause a lot of havoc. But I think ASU's quarterback is better than Madsen. I think they've got more athletes on defense, and I think Dillingham does a really nice job. And I think that they are playing hard for him right now, and I think he does a good job with the 4th down decisions and like taking a game from people. Like in the Arizona game, he tried an onside kick and just punted it right at them, and it bounced off of them, and they got an extra possession that way. And they're kind of going for it on 4th down all the time, mostly because they don't have a kicker. And I think that their kicker was found from open tryouts from campus in the middle of the year. So,
yes, after the Cincinnati game, I believe. Did you remember this? Where he was like, "I hate our kicker. We're getting a new kicker."
Yes.
Not kidding.
Yes, and they did. I wonder if any of my classmates went to that went to that tryout. But
I would go, man. That would be sick.
might as well try. So, but that has resulted in them going for a lot of fourth down. So I think ASU, like if they have Tyson, I'm not on top of it. But with the bye, I'm assuming that. No, never mind. Tyson is out. Shit, never mind. I'm an idiot, not a real fan. But
fake fan.
Still, like even if Tyson is out, that hurts them a lot. But their wide receivers made a ton of plays in the Big 12 championship game. Like it seemed like they had great depth at that position. And then again, they can just pound Scatterbo. So I'll say them because they're my guys. Probably Oregon is what would have to happen. They're probably my pick.
They're on the same side.
They play in the championship.
That's tough. The other side of the bracket is tough.
Probably just Georgia then. It's going to be them versus one of the top two teams is my take.
All right.
I didn't think as hard about this as I thought about what I was going to say for my matchups.
That's
clearly because I just was like, I'll say ASU and be done with it. But yeah,
Matt,
I'll go with them.
I've got Oregon winning it all. I think they match up well against Ohio State if they see them. I think that, maybe there's some questions about their defense overall. But offensively, I mean, they've been fantastic this year. They're undefeated for a reason. They've been tested and they've won. Yeah, Penn State was able to run on them, sure, but they still ended up winning that one. And I think when you go into that game and you've got all that talent and you've got a quarterback like Dylan Gabriel who is very experienced, he's always making the right decision, he can do a little bit of everything, I think that puts you in a really good position. We talk about maybe how their run defense didn't do good against Penn State, but I look at other teams. I mean, I'm like, Texas, I got questions about like what they can do through the air at all, right? I mean, they lost to a Georgia team that was on their backup quarterback for the second half. They're sort of like a defensive juggernaut. Now, that's not to say that I don't think Texas can figure it out and win it all. They can, but they've got questions as well. I look at Georgia and I say, at quarterback again, it's like, dude, they might be a disaster if Beck doesn't get healthy. And if he does, they might not be that much better. Penn State already lost to them. Arizona State and Boise State are sort of outside teams. When I look at the field, I'm like, this is the year for Oregon, right? So I just like them, and I like the high-powered offense.
Can I change my pick? I looked at the bracket again. Let me get ASU versus Penn State because I like Aller.
I was about to say, I was surprised that you didn't pick Penn State. I think Penn State's a perfectly fair pick. I mean, there's been teams like, they go up against SMU, I guess. They go up against Boise if they can win that. Then they'd go up, either
probably against Georgia.
Probably against Georgia, you would guess. But, there's a lot that could happen. But if they did go up against Georgia, there's been games where UGA's kind of let teams run on them. And if Penn State could get going with that, like they could be in the national title. It's totally possible.
Yeah, give me Penn State versus ASU for all the marbles.
ASU versus PSU. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stick with Georgia, though. So I'm going to go Oregon, Georgia. Oregon wins.
I have the same
possible
thing,
answer.
I have the same. It's like, dude, again, you could have done this with the computer. We didn't need, 3 rounds of playoffs to figure this out. We could have looked at Oregon and said, yeah, they're 13-0. They've been battle tested multiple times this season. They've won all of their games. They've won all of their tests. And they're the best team in college football, hands down. And then you can look at Georgia and say, yeah, they're not quite as good. Carson Beck has clearly been a problem this year, but, they're still probably the second best team in college football. Those two should play for the national title. And then you can have, Penn State play in the Rose Bowl or whatever. Or, you can have Penn State and Arizona State in the Rose Bowl. You can have that, Theo.
I realize that your 13 seed take was just a rehash of BCS was better because you're mourning for the days when like the Rose Bowl meant something.
Did you see my video? I made a video and that's basically what I ended up saying. I was like 10 years ago, man.
Yeah, I don't think that means it's better to be the 13 than the 12 seed now. I think that really your take is you yearn for the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl.
The Fiesta Bowl, the Outback Bowl, the good old days, man. when football meant something.
And that I can understand. But now the 13 seed plays in the, what was it, the retro finance
Right,
bowl.
the ReliaQuest Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm not a fan of the expansion of the playoffs, but it's not because of what we're about to see. I can tell you that. Like the playoffs themselves are going to be awesome. For at least on paper, they look like they're going to be really good. It sucks when in the regular season you see Notre Dame lose to NIU, and you're like, that's not like that big of a deal for them.
Right.
But it's cool now when you get a Notre Dame IU matchup. I didn't think it was quite worth it, but I mean,
We'll see.
One of those things where I'm not going to sit here and
faces
vote.
its toughest test, in my opinion. That's the games that actually have to be good in the first round.
I think
If they're not,
here's the thing.
We'll see if they are.
Even if they're not, like, let's say, I don't know. Let's say that these games end up being bad, which isn't impossible because you only have a handful of them. I think that'll be a one-off thing. Like, these are going to end up being good games on average if you play them enough. They're big-time matchups.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess a lot of them are 7-point spreads, but you give me a bunch of 7-point spread games against good teams. Now, I am a little worried that, again, I feel like college football thrives a little bit more in where it's like 40 games going on at once, and then it's like 3 or 4 of them emerge as like crazy great ones, and then you sort of flip between those rather than like, this is the one game on right now. And like, hopefully it doesn't go the wrong way and all of a sudden it's a 20-point blowout and not that interesting. I feel like college football thrives the other way, but I think overall these games are going to be good. I think the 12-team playoff itself overall will be good.
I think it was like 2012 or 2013. I like begged my mom to let me stay up so I could watch the college football national championship. It was Alabama versus Notre Dame, and I was like, and my mom was like, "Do you really need to watch this?" And I'm like, "Come on, it's the national champion!" Like, and then Alabama won 42-21 or something, like something
31-14 is what it was back.
Was it 31-14?
That was back in.
I feel like I thought Alabama scored more than that. I won't lie.
Oh wait, I just googled that, assuming it would be the. No, it was 42-14. My bad. I was
42-14. Okay.
And at one point it was 35-0.
Yeah.
And then Notre Dame scored it.
But I stayed up and watched that game, and I was like, okay, so Alabama's like, they're the GOATs.
You watched an Eddie Lacy masterclass. that game. But
I did.
Even if the first round is like kind of mid, like I fear, and like let's say the ACC teams do like get blown out or whatever, there's no reason why the second round then shouldn't be fire. Like we do get 2 bites the apple here of more.
What if
matchups.
ASU is phony and they stink? Could be, and then Boise stinks. Like, let's say that happens. Mm-hmm. Like, then all of a sudden you got 2 games. Nah, I think it'll be good. I am a little worried about Boise. I won't lie.
Suck, and then Oregon just blows out.
I'm a little worried about Boise State,
Georgia
hanging with Penn. Well, I guess.
Yeah, 1-point game versus Oregon, right?
That's true. They also played a 1-score game against Wyoming, so whatever happens.
Yeah,
happens,
true. 1-score game versus Oregon, all that shows is how ASU is coming out of that side of the bracket.
I have one more thing I want to bring up before we get out, or we do our Stay Hot Locks, I guess. Yeah. Bill Belichick officially set to be the head coach of UNC.
Shout out my guy, Ollie Connolly on Twitter for reporting this in great detail over the course of the weekend. I sometimes reference his podcast, the Read Optional, on here, and I can't recommend it enough. I really like his work, and he was breaking it down, talking about some manifesto that Bill Belichick brought the organization about, like how he's gonna make this a pipeline for the NFL and how his son needs to be the. Yeah, that's Ollie Connolly. He's cool, and yeah, and he was talking about like how his son needs to be his like guaranteed successor is what Connolly was talking about.
Just like, if that is true, if that's like really the deal here, like that is completely ridiculous, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Like this is some of like the most insane nepotism ever. My son has to be the head coach
when
after
I
me.
die.
He's a king.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. I think it's just weird. Maybe it'll work. I honestly have no idea how he's gonna.
I had a take coming into this episode. I was like, man, if the Buckeyes lose to Tennessee, is Belichick gonna be the next? the next Ohio State coach.
The thing is about Belichick, I'm very fascinated to see how it goes because Belichick and Saban are like close friends. And it wouldn't surprise me if like Saban is like closely working with this UNC project. So it's like, it feels like they could build a pretty good college. Like, obviously they won't be working together, but Belichick has that mentality, has that mindset, he has that resource. And I just think that Belichick is the GOAT of football. Like, I think having Bill Belichick is the single biggest hack or the single biggest asset that you can have in NFL history. Like, when he was a defensive coordinator, the 49ers looking for a three-peat, like, played the Giants and they put up like 14 points and he got a ring there. He got another ring there. Then he goes to the Patriots and gets 6 rings there.
Don't forget the Browns, man.
And the Browns, he turns them around, like, and turns their defense around from the basement to the top. And he turned, like, even after Brady left, his defenses were good, at least in New England. Mm-hmm. So I just think when you look at everything he's done, I just think he's the GOAT, man. So to have
the only criticism would be
he could be washed, though.
He could be washed, and he was also the GM of the Patriots. And his talent acquisition post Brady was very rough. The college game might accentuate the things he was bad at with like constantly forcing him to build new rosters. So I don't know how it will go. I have no idea. It won't be the number one story. I don't like. Year. Is he gonna be like? Do you think he's gonna like be okay with like NIL deals?
I would be shocked if he wasn't.
I'm just like, I just don't know how he's going to manage that kind of stuff.
He'll probably be thankful for NIL deals. I mean, the NFL, the NIL deals might be his secret weapon because it makes the proification of the college game might benefit Bill Belichick. And the thing the Patriots were always so good at was like in-league scouting more than like college scouting. It even felt like the free agent acquisitions they sometimes made, some other trades, like that was just as big of a part of it as their drafting. It felt like Wes Welker was a Dolphin, right? Randy Moss was on the Raiders.
Yeah. Because I always feel like Saban has always been like super against like the proification of the college game, and that's like one of the main reasons.
Embraced it.
It's like that was one of the main reasons why like he preferred coaching college instead of the NFL was he just felt like he had more control and. And all that stuff, and maybe Belichick will be different because I mean he was super successful in the NFL, but
I have no idea. I could see it being a total disaster. It's such a big change that I'd probably lean like underwhelming more than GOAT stuff happening, but you just don't know what.
I don't think it'll be like a total disaster, but underwhelming seems about right.
Who knows?
But do you want to get into the Stay Hot locks?
Let's do it.
All right. Theo, you have a pretty insane lead right now. I think you have 19, or is it more? Is it 21 now?
I think it's 20. 20.
Theo, you have 20. I have 12. Matt has 11. All right. So Theo, you get to choose where you want to pick.
Let me get 2. Let me get the Goldilocks zone. Yeah.
So that means I could take the 1 here. And I think I will. And I'll just take the most surefire lock on the board, which is Ravens Giants.
Very fair. And then I'm going to take let's see. I'm going to take the Vikings over the Bears, I think.
Okay.
I think that's a fair pick. Just looking at the spreads. Yeah, Vikings over Bears is not a bad.
Is that the second highest spread, or is it something else?
It's Washington over the Saints, which is what I'll take.
Fair enough.
And then I got to pick another. I'm a little behind, so I'm thinking I'm going to go with another. I'll go Kansas City over Cleveland.
Do I challenge that one?
This challenge, betting on the Browns burned you pretty pretty bad last week, Blake.
Yeah, I probably would have gotten 2 free points if I hadn't done that.
I will take the Bengals over the Tennessee Titans and pray that Will Levis doesn't put up 600 yards.
I'm praying that he does. I have to take more because I'm so far down at this point.
Did Matt pass you, Blaiden?
Huh?
I didn't hear earlier. Did Matt pass you?
No, I'm at 12. He's at 11, but I mean, I'm still down 8.
Yeah.
I am going to make some pretty... Okay, I'm going to take the Rams over the 49ers. The way Stafford's been playing.
Okay.
And then I'm going to take the Falcons over the Raiders. I don't love the Falcons right now, but
Doubting Ritter revenge, I see.
the Raiders are really bad, so
It's fair.
I see.
Theo, do you want to take another?
I'm realizing how this is going to play out, whereas like you guys are going to start challenging all each other's picks, and that could result in your points going up rather quickly because like one of you kind of has to be right on those. And I'm wondering how this could play out here at the end. I am looking at the rest of the games here. I'm seeing Patriots Cardinals, which is kind of tempting because the Patriots are just so bad. They're one of the bottom feeders. But
Yeah.
Kyler hasn't been playing great recently, and he is kind of a second half faller off of things. So I'm a little bit nervous to pick it. I think I'm going to stick with my 2 of the Bengals. You know what? Here, how about one more? And this one might be crazy, and this one is a bit of a from deep. Give me the Carolina Panthers over the Dallas Cowboys.
I was literally about to do that, but I was like, you know what? I'll wait. It'll come back to me. Neither of them are gonna pick it. I was gonna do the same thing.
Just because
I get it. Good old Panthers. They're too scrappy.
Their offense has actually been good, and the Cowboys' defense is just so bad. But
you know
also,
what,
so
never
is the
mind.
Panthers.
Can I take it back? I'm thinking about it. That may have been a spur of the moment decision.
No, you
can have it. No, I don't want it anymore.
Interesting.
So is it? When is it?
I chewed on it, and then I thought I was going to make a grand. That is just a pump fake. Bro, it's messing around.
Do you want to take another?
It's just my 2.
Yeah, I'm going to challenge you, and I'm going to take the 49ers.
You're going to take the 49ers. Okay.
And that's just good value, right?
Yeah, that is good value.
I got to do something, and I've got to do something, right? If I'm sitting here at 11, maybe this ends the year with like Theo sort of like trickling his total up, where I keep trying to make more and more explosive plays, and I lose by like 50. But 49ers, Kansas City, and who else did I pick?
Commanders.
Washington. That's not so bad.
That's not so bad.
Okay. I don't really feel great about the 49ers against the Rams. Don't get me wrong. Like, I maybe I even like the Rams straight up, but I think that's just too good of odds for double points.
Mm-hmm. Are you gonna take any others?
No, I'm not.
All right, let me think. Do I want to do the Panthers? I kind of do. I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
So that brings us the final tally for the Stay Hot Locks this week. Theo with the lead, 20 points, locking the Vikings and the Bengals. I'm in second place with 12, locking the Ravens, Rams, Falcons, and Panthers. And Matt sitting with 11 points, locking the Commanders, Chiefs, and 49ers. And the 49ers pick is a challenge to my Rams pick, which is good value.
Yeah.
We'll see. Can Matt and I make a comeback? The world may never know, but we'll be back to recap. What is it, week 15 of the NFL season? Come Monday morning. Huh?
I said the world may never know.
That's true. Week 15 of the NFL season underway. We'll be there to recap it come Monday. And then, of course, the college football playoff going to be coming up very soon. Hopefully all of our picks hit. But if they don't, you can't blame us, you know. But thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Stay Hot. We appreciate it as always. And from your favorite 3 boys here at Stay Hot, we will catch you on the flippity flop.